Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Daniel Floyd, Life Point Church, Fredericksburg, Virginia. The senators will remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Senate Page Aubrey Hendrickson Stanley.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we bow our hearts before you today in recognition that you are sovereign over all creation. We thank you for your grace and your mercy in our lives, for your faithfulness to us all. And this week, as we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King, we ask that the darkened hearts of those who carry hate and racism be illuminated with your love. I humbly ask for the members of this body that you'd grant them wisdom. Your word says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let them ask of God, who gives it generously without finding fault. May they possess not merely a wisdom that comes with human limitations, but wisdom that comes from God. May they discern your will and your ways as they execute the duties of their offices in the best interest of those they represent. I pray for an uncommon unity, for a house divided against itself cannot stand. May you grant each member the strength to stand within their convictions and the grace to find common ground for the benefit of every citizen. And may your hand of blessing and protection be upon our Commonwealth. May every individual, regardless of race or creed, find prosperity in every area of his or her life. And may we all do that which you require, which is to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will call the roll. All those present will record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Monday, January 21st, 2019.
The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. Clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now comes the time in the morning hour where we recognize our distinguished guest with us here in the Senate gallery. Would give my daily reminder that the way that this will proceed is that a senator will stand up and recognize an individual or a group. I will then extend the warm welcome of the Senate, and we'll wait to the very end and we'll all clap together for that individual or group. I'd like to begin by recognizing the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, joining us in the Senate gallery today are students from G.H. Reed Elementary. This is the fourth grade class who's here with us this afternoon to tour the Capitol and learn more about the legislative process. G.H. Reed is a phenomenal school in the city of Richmond. Very proud of them and all the good work that they are doing there. And so on behalf of Senator McClellan, Senator Dance, and myself, I ask that we offer them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our student leaders from G.H. Reed's fourth grade class with us in the gallery please rise if you are able?
Thank you, you too.
Thank you all so much for being here today. We are really excited to have you in the Senate and in the Capitol. And for those of you who it's your first time here, we want you to come back and see us a whole bunch more times because you really are the future, the reason that we're all doing the work that we're doing. And so thank your teachers, thank your parents and your families for believing in you and investing in you. And we want you all to work hard in school, get great grades, dream big and work hard because good things will happen for every single one of you. I ask everybody to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our great student leaders from G.H. Reed. A senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Mr. President, also joining us in the gallery are a group of high school seniors from Powhatan High School. These are about 30 12th graders who are going through the Advanced College Academy at Powhatan High School. And as I'm sure many of you know, the Advanced College Academies that we offer in Virginia are so that high school students can earn their associate's degree while still in high school and get a lot of those college credits out of the way. It's a phenomenal program, and they're doing a great job at Powhatan High. And I'd ask that we offer the 12th grade government class from Powhatan High the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our student leaders from Powhatan High School with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We echo the generous and eloquent words of the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant. We're very proud of your accomplishments and all that you're doing to better your own futures, but also to better the Commonwealth of Virginia. Our future is in very good hands with scholars and leaders like each one of you, and I know your families are tremendously proud of you. I know all 40 senators and our staff are also incredibly proud of you, so please do come back anytime. We look forward to great things for every single one of you in your futures. I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our student leaders from Powhatan High School. Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we welcome the Virginia Smoke-Free Association in the Senate Gallery. The VSFA represents vapor products industry here in the Commonwealth, comprised of over 70 retail and manufacturing entities in Virginia alone. Their primary function is to help adult smokers transition to a safer alternative. In Great Britain, the Royal College of Physicians has found that vaping is 95% safer than traditional combustibles. The FDA Commissioner, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, has also found that current smokers who completely switch to e-cigarettes may see improved short-term health outcomes. We applaud their efforts to provide healthier, safe alternatives here in Virginia, and I appreciate their support of efforts to keep these products off of our school grounds. So they're working very much to focus on the adults trying to get off cigarettes and trying to keep young people from getting involved in these products. So I'd ask you, Mr. President, to give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our guests from the Virginia Smoke-Free Association please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today in the Senate and in the Capitol. We appreciate the work that you're doing here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and echo the generous and eloquent words of the Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden. Thank you also for your partnership and working to keep the products out of the hands of our young people. It really speaks volumes about your commitment to our youth here in the Commonwealth. And so we're grateful to you. You're welcome back here anytime. And I would ask everybody to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from Virginia's Smoke-Free Association. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Good morning, Mr. President. How are you today?
Good morning, Senator. Doing well. How are you?
I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
So today, Mr. President, we have individuals from our Morris Science Temple of America visiting us in the gallery today. So I'd like to give them the warmest welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the Moorish Science Temple of America please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here with us today. We're honored by your presence and know that this is not your first time traveling to the Senate, and we're always grateful that you take the time to come be with us in the Senate and provide moral leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You're welcome back here anytime, and I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our friends from the Moorish Science Temple of America. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, this morning our prayer was led by a dear friend of mine who probably has one of the fastest growing churches. In fact, I think one of the fastest growing churches in the whole country, Pastor Daniel Floyd. But let me tell you about LifePoint a little bit, Mr. President. It not only started in Fredericksburg, it's one of the top 100 fastest growing churches in America. They have both national and international television program called Fully Alive with his vision and the Lord's vision to raise up the next generations of leaders. Pastor Daniel founded LifePoint College in 2016 to help do that as well. He's super educated with 2 masters from Liberty, and he's getting his doctorate now. His book is called Author of Living the Dream, and it's phenomenal. It was released in 2013. He's here with Kyle Kramer from his church, and I would ask that you would give him the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Reverend Daniel Floyd and Kyle Kramer please rise in the gallery? Reverend, thank you so much for that really fantastic prayer. I thought you struck all the right notes and got us off to a great start. And we echo the eloquent, generous words of the Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves, and congratulate you and your congregation on all your wonderful success. Thank you for your moral leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It makes us all better. And Kyle, thank you as well for your leadership. Thanks for being here today and for all that your church does in Fredericksburg and in the Commonwealth of Virginia to help us rise to the better angels of our nature. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our 2 friends, the Reverend Daniel Floyd and Kyle Kramer.
Mr. President.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
I don't have a green sheet in front of me, but I'm pretty sure she's in the audience, or hopefully she's made it up to the gallery. I met with her earlier today, and she'll be here Wednesday, I believe this week, or it's the following week for the Military and Veterans Caucus. But Dr. Nyati Doakai, and Mr. President, she's a phenomenal lady that works for George Mason with the Veterans in the Arts program. And I'd spoken to a budget amendment that would help continue that program with the amount of work they've done with our veterans in the Washington, D.C. metro area. It's one of our shining stars that we've been able to highlight here in the Commonwealth. But she has pretty much carried that whole thing on her back and got it running and got it going. I would talk about all the great things she's done, but if she's in the audience or in the gallery today, I'd like to just give her the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Dr. Doakai, are you in the gallery with us today? If not, we will welcome you on television. You can see this later, but thank you so much for your leadership. And we echo the generous words of the Senator from Spotsylvania. We're grateful for all you do for our military, veterans, and families. It's essential here in the Commonwealth of Virginia to have that kind of leadership. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to Dr. Doakai. Senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
On behalf of myself and the gentleman from Franklin, Senator Stanley, I would ask you to welcome a group from Pittsylvania County, the Pittsylvania County Youth Commission.
Thank the Senator. Would our leaders from the Pittsylvania County Youth Commission in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here with us in the Senate today. We are grateful for your presence and also echo the generous words of Senator Ruff, and I know Senator Stanley joins him in welcoming you all. Pennsylvania County is a beautiful part of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we're very proud to have you with us today. Keep up the great work, and you are leaders today. You'll be leaders tomorrow, and we look forward to all the great things that you will accomplish here in Virginia. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our leaders from Pennsylvania County Youth Commission. The birthday senator, Senator Lucas from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to you.
Good morning, Senator. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have visiting with us correctional officers from a number of locations throughout the Commonwealth. This, the National Annual Lobby Day for National Coalition of Public Safety Officers. They are here to meet and talk with their legislators concerning salary levels, safety issues, and working conditions in our state correctional facilities. The corrections officers are from Deep Meadow, Deerfield, Greensville, and Lunenburg Correctional Centers, and also from the Sussex State Prison. Mr. President, I would appreciate it if you would extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the National Coalition of Public Safety Officers in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being with us here today. It's an honor to have you in the Senate and in the Capitol. We are grateful for the work that you do every single day to keep us all safe and to make this Commonwealth a better place for all of our families. And thank you for your leadership, your sacrifice, and I know you will hear a lot of congratulations throughout the day, and you'll have a lot of ears listening to what you have to say around ways that we can support you even better and improve the work that you get to do every day for all of us. So I'm glad that you're here. We welcome you back anytime as our friends in the Senate, and I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our leaders from the National Coalition of Public Safety Officers. Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to direct everyone's attention in the gallery to a guest who is visiting the Capitol today. His name is Justin Beamer. He's a graduate of Shenandoah University, and he is originally from Warren County. He's very interested in the political process and what it is that we do here, and he is shadowing me for the day. So hopefully he will be able to endure that. But I ask that you please extend to him the very warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Justin Beamer please rise in the gallery if you are able? Justin, thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here, and we echo the generous and eloquent words of the Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel. You have a wonderful person you'll get to shadow today, and I'm sure you will learn a lot spending the day with her. You also have an amazing first name. I really like it very much, and so I know you're going to continue to be a great leader here for us in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our friend Justin Beamer. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
We have two individuals in the gallery I'd like to call your attention to. The first is a young man named Mason Davenport of Richmond. He is a senior at William and Mary, former intern at McGuire Woods, but he recently was elected to Phi Beta Kappa. And he's accompanied today by Doug Bunch, who's a member of the William and Mary Board of Visitors. I've known Doug for a long time. He's a Virginia native, but he started a new practice among the board members, or the Board of Visitor members, and that is to have them help move freshmen into their dorms at William & Mary. So I thought that was notable. So I hope that you'll extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Doug Bunch and Mason Davenport please rise in the gallery if you are able? Doug and Mason, thank you all so much for being here with us today. We are all, of course, very supportive of William and Mary. It's a great institution here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and in this nation. Doug, thank you for all that you're doing on the Board of Visitors to guide that university to even higher heights. And Mason, congratulations on your election to Phi Beta Kappa. That's a tremendous accomplishment, and you should be very proud. And I know that your family is very proud, and we all are as well. So, Doug, have fun moving them into the dorms when the freshmen come onto campus. And thank you all for your leadership. You're welcome back here anytime. I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to Doug Bunch and Mason Davenport. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thank the senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us in the gallery, we have members and supporters of the Virginia State Conference NAACP, representing over 80 branches throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. As the premier civil rights organization in Virginia, the members are here today to advocate for environmental justice, expanding solar energy deployment in the Commonwealth, ending mass incarceration, improving education, and expanding voting rights. And I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
I thank the senator. Would our friends, the leaders from the state conference of the NAACP, please rise in the gallery if you are able? You definitely will deserve another round of applause at the end. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. Thank you for your leadership on critical issues around civil rights and equality and justice, the issues that make it so that all of our families, no matter the color of their skin, where they're born, who they love, they get a shot to rise in America and a chance at the American dream. I see so many friendly faces, and as a proud life member of the NAACP, it's wonderful to see you all here today in the Capitol and in the Senate. Also should note, NAACP was started in 1909, and so 110 years now of tremendous leadership here in this nation, making us, again, rise to the better angels of our nature. So I would ask everyone, please, to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our leaders and friends from the State Conference of the NAACP. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Serville.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. Joining us in the gallery today, we have Girl Scout Troop 559, who is here visiting us from Charlottesville, Virginia, and from Senator Deed's district. You might ask why I'd be introducing them. Well, one of their members is the daughter of my law school roommate, Rob Mosry. So Mira Mosry is up there with her mom, who came to Richmond with them, and a bunch of her friends from Troop 559. They gave me some Thin Mints, which I believe are below the gift threshold, and happy to share. And on behalf of myself and the senator from Bath, Mr. President, I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
There we go. Thank the senator. Would our leaders from Girl Scout Troop 559 in Charlottesville, Virginia, please rise in the gallery if you are able. Thank you all so much for being with us here today. Thank you for your leadership and all that you're doing to set a great example for all of our young people in the Commonwealth of Virginia to follow. Thank you to your parents and the leaders of the troop for all your investment in these wonderful young women who are going to lead us into a brighter future. Thank you in advance for the Thin Mints you're going to give to all of us throughout the day. But we are grateful to you and look forward to wonderful things in your bright future. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our leaders from Girl Scout Troop 559 in Charlottesville, Virginia. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of an introduction? Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended and the nominating report from the Committee on Committees be discharged and taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the nominating committee nominations be taken up for immediate consideration. All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The rules are suspended. The nominations report will be taken up for immediate consideration. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, pages have just passed out the standing committee report that would place the senator from, I guess, southern western Fairfax or thereabouts on the committees on general laws and technology, rehabilitation and social services, and transportation, which, as the members might recall, were the same committees that former Senator Wexton served on before she left us for much less greener pastures where she could be working even today instead of in the government shutdown. But, Mr. Chairman, I ask that the body look favorably upon these nominations to the General Laws, Rehabilitation, and Transportation Committees.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the report be adopted? As many as are in favor of adoption of the report will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The committee nominations report is adopted. Is there any other business to come in the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, January 22, 2019. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all of the Senate bills on pages 1 through 11, including Senate Bill 1425 through Senate Bill 1653, be placed on their final passage in the block. Any senator who may desire to remove a bill from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 11, Senate Bill 1425 through Senate Bill 1653, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1425.
Mr. President.
Senator Donovan.
Can that go by for one more day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 1425 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1020, Senate Bill 1048, Senate Bill 1141, Senate Bill 1142, Senate Bill 1159, Senate Bill 1167, Senate Bill 1174, Senate Bill 1181, Senate Bill 1183, Senate Bill 1209, Senate Bill 1254, Senate Bill 1289, Senate Bill 1382, Senate Bill 1397, Senate Bill 1405, Senate Bill 1432, Senate Bill 1433, Senate Bill 1439, Senate Bill 1440, Senate Bill 1468, Senate Bill 1474, Senate Bill 1481, Senate Bill 1511, Senate Bill 1593, Senate Bill 1595, Senate Bill 1653.
Question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is all bills except for Senate Bill 1425. All in favor of passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 1168, a bill relating to the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation, regulatory boards, expungement of disciplinary records.
Mr. President, can I go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 1168 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1165, a bill relating to local gas severance tax sunset date.
Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
This is the extension of the sunset for another 2 years on the gas severance tax. And so this local gas severance tax was passed several decades ago, and it's a tax on the natural gas that is pumped out of the ground in Southwest Virginia and used for rural roads and infrastructure spending and economic development. This tax has been around for, as I said, a long time. Prior to me, it was carried by Senator Puckett, and prior to him, it was carried by Senator Reeser. I hope it would be the pleasure of this body to pass it.
I thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Northern Fairfax? Senator Howell rise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, I rise to apologize to the senator from Russell for voting against his bill in committee. I had it confused with another tax credit.
Thanks, Senator. Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, it's my pleasure and honor to accept that apology.
Without objection, the apology is accepted. Do any senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1165? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1165 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. Senate Bill 1165 passes.
Senate Bill 1012, a bill relating to carrying a concealed weapon, firefighters and emergency medical services providers.
Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am speaking in regards to Senate Bill 1012, which was actually passed out of the Senate here last year as Senate Bill 715. According to Virginia law, our firefighters and EMS can actually currently carry. There's no law restricting them from doing that, except in situations where they're going in places where it's currently restricted. So in other words, our schools, our state buildings, like the Virginia State Police, where you see the big sign with a gun and an X through it, you can't carry there. What this would allow, especially in our rural areas, it is a local option, but it would allow our firefighters and EMS specifically who live in the rural areas who conceal carry and would allow them to continue to carry while they're on duty. So I have the support of the Colonial Heights Chief of Fire and EMS, A.G. Moore, in my district, who says that oftentimes fire and emergency medical services personnel arrive on the scene to save lives, but in turn encounter someone threatening their lives. I've learned that the nature of emergency response dictates that responders frequently find themselves working at unstable or unseen scenes. This bill would allow fire and EMS to arm themselves for their own personal security. And Mr. President, I would say that in a lot of our localities, especially in the more suburban or urban areas, you probably don't see this as much because you have more resources committed to our police who typically get there first and secure the situation. But in areas, like in my district, a lot of the rural areas where we have more limited resources, they compete for resources, and many times you have volunteer fire and EMS who are volunteers who put their lives on the risk and enter into really dangerous situations. So with that, Mr. President, I would ask that we pass this bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike, rise?
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the bill.
Afternoon, Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had this debate last year. This is still a bad bill. Despite what the patron, I think, is good intents, I think there's a number of different issues that the body needs to consider, one of which is the liability. And frankly, you look through the bill, there's no requirements on training. There's no requirements that the fire chief that's approving it knows anything whatsoever about firearms or firearm safety. There's nothing in the bill that requires a notification to the insurance carrier that a policy has now been adopted to have untrained, uncertified folks carrying as a part of their duties. And that's essentially what this de facto endorsement does. It creates a policy allowing untrained folks into a workplace environment. This is an extraordinarily bad precedent to set, and I think there are fire chiefs who do not understand the implications all across Virginia of allowing this to take place if this were to become law. I understand certainly about the protections in place. This, in Section D, calls about creating a policy and a framework to allow folks to carry. The real policy and issue is the policy of staging and having units staged prior to sheriffs or police officers arriving on the scene and securing. That's the real policy, and that's already an operating procedure all across the Commonwealth. That needs to be the focus, and if folks are putting themselves in endangered situations, they need to review their own operating policies. This is a wrong solution for a problem that creates all sorts of liabilities and issues to both the citizens of the Commonwealth as well as to those fire departments. So thank you very much, and I hope it's the body's pleasure to defeat the measure.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black, rise?
Speak in favor of the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, over decades now, we've seen situations where there are fires that have to be responded to, there are injuries and so forth, and it is not unusual for the responders, the first responders, not just police, the first responders to be fired upon. Their lives are often in danger, and when we look at what the EMF people do, often they are in remote locations. Often it's in the dark of night where they're going to rescue lives, and sometimes those lives are in danger because the individuals have suffered a gunshot wound or some sort of a wound inflicted as a result of an attack. And yet they have to go forward. They have to rescue life. Time is of the essence. Individual is bleeding. Individual may have difficulty breathing. They do not have the time to sit back and to wait for police officers to arrive. And they courageously risk their lives and move forward and save the lives of others. And I think this is the least that we can do, is to give them the opportunity to defend themselves if necessary. So I hope that you will pass this. This is a very modest measure and should certainly be in effect. Honestly, I was surprised to realize that they did not have this inherent right already. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
Speak to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
This bill was heard the other day in committee, and not a single EMT, not a single fireman. Let me repeat that. Not a single EMT, not a single fireman showed up to testify in favor of this bill. But let me tell you who did. Firemen and EMT people. And I point blank asked one of the firemen who said he's been on the fire department for 40 years, had he ever heard of any firemen or emergency people being ambushed or fired on in Virginia, and he said absolutely not. It has not happened anywhere in Virginia. And they do not want this bill. The firemen don't want it. The EMT people don't want it. No one showed up to testify in favor of the bill other, I think, than the Citizens Defense League. That was it. So I would ask that you all take a real good look at introducing something into a situation which the people who are involved in came and expressly said they do not want.
Thank the senator. Do any senators other than the patron wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1012? Seeing none, Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator, you have the floor.
What I would tell you is this. As a mother of a daughter who is an EMT, a lot of times there are good intentions, I think, by our EMT leadership to put policies and procedures in place to protect our firefighters and our EMTs. However, as we know in the real world happens. I'd like to read a final quote from the Amelia County Volunteer Fire Department Company Fire Chief Justin Warzak, who is in my district. And this is a direct quote from him. This day and age, first responders are targeted, and it's not exclusively law enforcement anymore. This bill will allow first responders, including fire and EMS, a way to protect themselves while on duty if a situation would ever arise. I can think of several circumstances where this would be useful. One incident I can think of called myself along with other firefighters to set up a landing zone for the med flight helicopter responding to a shooting victim. 2 of the suspects had fled on foot in the area armed with guns. We did not have any law enforcement security due to being in a rural area, and all the resources were at the scene of the incident. If anyone would have tried to stop or attack us, we would have not had a way to protect ourselves. That is the Fire Department Company Fire Chief Justin Warzak. And with that, Mr. President, I ask that we pass this fine bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1012 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. Senate Bill 1012 passes.
Senate Bill 1044, a bill relating to parking ordinances enforcement.
Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage of the bill and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fairly basic thing. This is a request for local enforcement of parking ordinances. Came about from Loudoun County, one of my counties, and there are a number of counties that are already sort of Christmas treed on the present code section, and it simply adds Loudoun County to that Christmas tree of counties. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1044? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1044...
Mr. President.
Junior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to point out that while this bill does just add Loudoun County to a list of other localities that can enforce parking regulations, the substitute that was adopted yesterday also expands a cap on fees that they could collect from a handful of jurisdictions to all jurisdictions covered by this legislation. And none of those jurisdictions were in the committee when that happened. It was sort of the spur of the moment based on discussions held in the committee. None of those jurisdictions were there to speak out against that. And so I just want to caution everyone, this bill does a little bit more than was mentioned on the floor today.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall Senate Bill 1044 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 12.
Ayes 27, noes 12. Senate Bill 1044 passes.
Senate Bill 1073, a bill relating to removing motor vehicles from the roadway.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Exciting news. Interstate 66 is under renovation construction to add HOV hot lanes to one of America's most crowded highways. And it's going to be a very frustrating experience as lanes are shifted and shoulders are eliminated in the construction process. And one of the most frustrating things I had noticed when 495 was going through this process is the image of two people in a minor fender bender, because it's stop-and-go traffic, making minor dents in each other's car, standing outside, exchanging information, taking many, many minutes to do that while the economy of the East Coast grinds to a halt. And what this bill will allow for is for these individuals to be instructed through signage that VDOT will put up that they are to remove their cars to the next pull-off area, which may include an exit ramp or agreed-upon location to get traffic off the road, get these accidents off the road, get traffic moving, and that is the essence of the bill, and it comes, if you don't do it, with a $20 fine. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, right?
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Well, Senator yield.
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
I was going to ask the gentleman about the comparative deterrence of a $20 fine in the I-66 corridor. What I would specifically ask the gentleman is, can you describe for me how much $20 will get you if you actually trespass inside the Beltway?
Has the floor.
Mr. President, depending on the time of day, not very far.
Thank the gentleman.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1073? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1073 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. Senate Bill 1073 passes.
Senate Bill 1236, a bill relating to public schools' equal access to education employee associations.
Junior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff.
Mr. President, this bill is about freedom of choice, equal access for all of our teachers. And I'll go point by point through this. School boards shall adopt and implement policies to ensure that employees have equal access to education associations. Such policies shall include provisions to prohibit preferential treatment, to the endorsement of one education employee association over another through policies, procedures, or other means, provide all education employee associations the same opportunity to attend new teacher orientation, and in effect to recruit new members. And then finally, equal access to employees' mailboxes and email addresses to all employee associations if any such access is granted. Mr. President, this is a bill that stops discrimination of one organization over another, and with that, I would request that that bill passes.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1236? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1236 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1275, a bill relating to junior reserve officer training programs, students receiving home instruction.
Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Mr. President, I move passage of the measure and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, presently there are certain high schools in Virginia that operate as hosts for a federal program that provides junior reserve officer training programs. The programs have not been specifically opened up to homeschool families by Virginia law, although the Department of Defense instruction covering this, which is DOD Instruction 1205.13, speaks in a couple of places to homeschool families, and obviously anticipates that would be that they would be involved. Every expense of JROTC is paid for by the Department of Defense, except for a percentage of the instructor's compensation. This is certainly something that should be available to all students. There really is no reason. This is a program that is run by DOD, and I think it's appropriate that we make sure that it's available to all these students of Virginia. So I urge the body to pass the measure.
Thank you, Senator. What purpose does the senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves, rise?
To speak in favor of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I represent a portion of my district called Orange County, and in Orange County we have a very vibrant JROTC because there's only one high school in Orange County. But I do have a lot of homeschool kids that would like to take part in that, who want to eventually serve in our Virginia National Guard or even in the armed forces, but they can't do that till they turn 18. And this is a way for them to get a jump on it. It's not the camel's nose under the tent for sports or anything else. This is very specifically tailored to JROTC, and I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves by not allowing some of these youth that are swayed that way to try to give back to their country, wearing the cloth of our country, to do that. So I would just like to say this is a good bill. If you believe in what our armed forces do and how to get there and become officers and senior enlisted, this is a pathway for those folks who might not have other opportunities, and I would ask you to support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1275? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1275 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. Senate Bill 1275 passes.
Senate Bill 1295, a bill relating to public schools, tobacco products, and nicotine vapor products prohibition.
Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass and explain.
Senator has the floor.
This bill requires that all local school boards to develop a comprehensive plan, tobacco-free policy, banning any tobacco products, nicotine or vapor product on the school bus, school property, or any other on school sites or off the school-sponsored activity program. The code currently prohibits smoking on school buses and in school buildings. This bill has already been passed by 18 states and District of Columbia. We hope this bill passes.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1295? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1295 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 1.
Ayes 37, noes 1. Senate Bill 1295 passes.
Senate Bill 1487, a bill relating to driver's license designation, traumatic brain injury.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. I'd like to speak to that.
Senator has the floor.
Its bill requires DMV, upon the request of an applicant and presentation of a signed statement by a licensed neurologist confirming the applicant's condition, to designate a traumatic brain injury on the applicant's driver's license.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose does the Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico, rise?
Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body, as you'll see, I was a no vote on this bill, and one of the reasons why is the concerns I have as far as what would be considered a brain injury. And, you could fall and have a concussion, and playing football, I've been in the hospital with concussions, so I guess there's documented evidence that there's been a brain injury. And one of the things that concerns me about this was when we were hearing testimony in committee, the gentleman who was testifying was using examples of what is done through individuals that have these brain injuries. In one of the testimonies, he said that one of the gentlemen he had, when he gets nervous, if he's stopped by a law enforcement officer, he begins to lie. And I then immediately thought, well, everybody must have one, because I really never stopped anybody that didn't. And then you got my great defense attorney, Jackie Childs, here, who would be saying, so you got stopped for that DUI and you couldn't walk. Go see your doctor and see if you can't get a brain injury certificate. So, definitions of how this, and I realize this is optional, and I'm not trying to water down the fact that there's not real brain injuries out there, but I've seen it too many times that too many of these things get used as excuses of not being able to perform tests and not being able to do the required things through DUIDs. DUIDs are driving under the influence of drugs, people that may abuse their drugs that have been prescribed and they can't perform these tests. And now we're going to allow them to put on that label of their driver's license that of a brain injury and the documentation, and there's nothing in this language that determines how severe that brain injury has to be. I think it's going down the slippery slope, and I know you're going to say, well, that's already on there. Diabetics can put it on there. Well, there's a way of tracking who's a diabetic through blood tests and so forth. And when the officer does stop the individual, there's things that they use to try to identify anything that might be medical before they resort to that situation as it stands now. So I would hope that you would consider what you're about to do, because I think that this is going to be a problem in the future, and that you would vote no.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
I speak to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you will support this bill. This past weekend, I was privileged to attend the premiere of a short documentary called The Quiet Healing. This is a documentary about a constituent of mine, Sergeant Toby Yarbrough, who was in Afghanistan in a combat area, but he wasn't wounded in combat. He worked for the Corps of Engineers as a sergeant in the Army. He went to move a front-end loader that had been damaged by enemy fire. That loader fell over on top of him, broke his spine in 3 places, and he did suffer severe traumatic brain injury. I talked to him this weekend about this bill, and he said that would just be wonderful, because when he's pulled over, he has a hard time really communicating. He's a great guy, but he knows that it would be good when the officer, both for him and the officer, to see that designation on this driver's license. Now, the gentleman from Grayson also, said that, well, anybody can go to a doctor and tell them, get a note that says you have TBI. Well, they can do the same thing getting their odometer checked, if they go and get pulled for speeding now. So I don't really think that holds a whole lot of water. But I would ask you to think about this and think about those people that suffer these injuries. They are severe. They are real. And they do suffer from these injuries. Again, this is totally voluntary on the person's part if they want this on their driver's license or not. I really feel it's a safety issue for both the driver and the police officer when they pull them over. So please pass this bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking in support of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
If you looked at the conditions on the driver's license that are currently covered and you added traumatic brain injury to it, you would look at that list, and if somebody asked you the question, which one of these doesn't belong, you wouldn't pick out traumatic brain injury. I don't know that you'd pick out any of them. It's just information for a police officer. When people pull up to a car that they're pulling someone over and there's unusual behavior and you see that, it's just information for that officer to make his judgments. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. When I was working at a juvenile detention center, when police would bring young people to us, the first thing you want to know is, what does that officer know? The kid doesn't come with a label or a driver's license with what his problems are. And you ask that officer, what can you tell us about this young man? It's information. Information is always a good thing. And there is nothing unusual about including this along with the other disorders that are listed on a driver's license, and I urge you to support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose does Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm speaking in favor of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We heard this in the Transportation Committee, and I guess there's just 2 points that really need to be reiterated. There's nothing about this bill that would interfere in a police officer's determination of whether an arrest should be made or whether a further investigation should take place. There's nothing in this bill that would interfere in the work that a police officer would normally do in pulling an individual over for a traffic violation. But what this bill does do, I think, is ensures in many ways that when you have an interaction with a police officer, at least an individual who unintentionally and uncontrollably may be acting in a bizarre way or a way that could be viewed as disrespectful or belligerent, at least the police officer would have information as to why. And if that information's not there, such behavior could be completely misinterpreted and actually jeopardize that person's ability to communicate with a police officer and have what we would consider to be an honest communication between a law officer and a prospective violator, should I say, or a traffic offender. So for those reasons, and for all the reasons that my colleagues mentioned, our testimony was very compelling. We had one of the best speakers I think I've heard before one of our Senate committees, who actually went through the different types of reactions an individual with a brain injury might have if pulled over by a police officer. So I'm going with more information. I'm going with the sense that we want the best communication possible in our application of law enforcement rules. So I ask the body to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose does Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico, rise?
Mr. President, just a follow-up, and I will list the names of the current things that are put on your driver's license. Insulin-dependent diabetic, easy to prove. Speech impairment, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder. Those are the ones currently on there, and now we're going to add brain injuries. And I didn't want to get it across that the police officer is not going to do his job. I'm just saying now with the label on the driver's license, it's going to give defense attorneys another avenue of being able to use it in a courtroom.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose does Senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise?
Mr. President, I actually rise in support of this bill.
Senator,
I probably try 75 to 100 of these cases a year, and I think that this is a very good bill.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose does Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley, rise?
Mr. President, I rise because I'm sitting next to my seatmate listening to him attack defense lawyers as if this is some defense tactic to add something in that's going to make me some money and win cases. So I rise in favor of the bill, Mr. President. I mean, with all due respect, I wish he was still a trooper while I was practicing law, because all my clients are liars. That somehow what we're doing here is not alerting a police officer to someone who may have a traumatic brain injury, but we're setting up a defense against the cops. So he thinks everybody is going to go out there and renew our license and put traumatic brain injury right on there.
So when we get pulled over, can't give me a ticket. I've got this on my license. That's not what the point is. Man, and don't ever speed in Grayson County. I'm telling you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, if I have a client who has such an infirmity, when they're pulled over, when they're asked to step out of the car and perform roadside tests, and by the way, you're not compelled to do them. The police officers trick you into doing them. You don't have to do the roadside test if you're pulled over. You don't have to blow in the box what we call the preliminary breath test. The only one you have to do is if you're arrested, pursuant to your license, is take the station test. But they never tell you that. So call Bill Stanley anyway, for all your legal needs. But the police officer is supposed to say, are there any infirmities, physical infirmities, that might prevent you from performing these tests? And so if this isn't on the license, they still may say, I have a traumatic brain injury. My clients all the time, I tell them to say that they've got a Anyway, it's another argument for another day. This is not going to be abused. Certainly, we have to have physicians bring write these letters that they bring to the DMV. I think this is a very good bill. I think it helps the police officers, and I hope it helps some of us defense lawyers in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators other than the patron wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1487? Seeing none, the senator from Bass, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I hesitate to even get up. but a couple of indicators from a brain injury include a problem with your speech or a problem with your gait. This is about providing information to officers. Good defense lawyers are going to try anything they can. But this is about putting information on the driver's license to give the officer that information when he initiates the stop or when the guy goes through a road check. It's not about providing the defense, and I hope you'll pass the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1487 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. Senate Bill 1487 passes.
Senate Bill 1675, a bill relating to killing or injuring police animals penalty.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill and ask the bill to pass.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1675 came at the request of my Commonwealth's attorney in Spotsylvania County. We recently had a canine that was murdered by a defendant, and it was killed. You can call it murdered. I don't know. If you like dogs, it's murdered. If you don't, it was killed. Mr. President, and it was pretty devastating not only to the department in the financial reasons why, because it cost almost $40,000 to train that dog, but to the officer himself. That dog took the bullet that was intended for the officer. At the end of the conclusion of that case, the suspect in the case was found guilty, pled to some other counts, but no time was served for shooting the canine. This is just one example. I know there's an example from the state police that I could bring up as well. But this just kind of says, look, if you're going to kill a canine police dog, that you ought to do a little bit of time. And if you push a law enforcement officer, you're going to do a mandatory 6 months. It should at least be the equivalent for shooting a canine. That's what this bill does. We require dogs to do a lot of things, but especially when they're in the service of those of us who serve in uniform, who are the lead elements to go out and find bad guys in a less than lethal way, and they get injured. I think it's important that we pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 1675? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1675 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 7.
Ayes 33, noes 7. Senate Bill 1675 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we leave this portion of the calendar, Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 1295 on page 15, I would ask that we reconsider that vote, please.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 1295 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as before, this bill has been put by the school system who are helping that this bill requires that all local school boards to develop and implement a comprehensive tobacco-free policy banning any tobacco products, nicotine, or vapor products on a school bus or school property. So all I'm doing is ask that this bill pass.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is Senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, I'm supportive of the bill, and I apologize for the senator having to re-explain it. But in case the body did not take notice yesterday, the velocity of legislation is moving pretty quickly. And as we get further into the session, approaching crossover and then the end of the session, things are going to be moving rather quickly. And the rules of the Senate provide that any member who is on the floor in his seat or her seat is required to vote. So I just wanted to take this opportunity on Senate Bill 1675 to remind the body of that, because as we get into perhaps some, I know it would be shocking to anyone, but if we just happen to get into some contentious legislation later on, I would want everyone who is on the floor in their seat to have the opportunity to vote.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1295 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 1.
Ayes 37, noes 1. Senate Bill 1295 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, including all Senate bills on pages 16 and 17, including Senate Bill 1023 through Senate Bill 726, be engrossed and advanced to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 16 through 17, Senate Bill 1023 through Senate Bill 1726, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1023, the substitute has been adopted by the Senate, and we have two floor amendments to the substitute.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Yes, Mr. President. I'd like to waive the reading of the amendments. Oh, I'd take that back.
Okay. Sorry, I think we go to Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a floor amendment. I move that we waive the reading of that floor amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendments be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendments is waived. Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I move that this floor amendment pass and speak to that.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a simple amendment. This would place the financial contingency clause on the bill. I think this is a good bill, but we need to make sure that we appropriately fund it in the budget. So I would ask that we attach this clause.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the floor amendments be agreed to?
Mr. President.
The Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the gentleman resume the floor for a question?
Will Senator yield for a question?
Be pleased to yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
And Mr. President, just kind of caught me off guard. This was a bill that Senator Cosgrove patroned, and I did as well. Very, very important to our areas and for school safety. And I don't know that we had this discussion in the Finance Committee, but I would ask the gentleman, if we place this clause on it and this bill finds its way through the Senate, will the House then not react favorably to this bill because it has the clause on it? Don't they have a position that if there's a clause on a Senate bill, they don't act on it favorably?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I would respond to the senator that the clause effectuates if we actually address it in the budget and it is funded, then the clause is of no impact. In other words, that's the issue. If we have a clause attached and we don't fund it, then it would be an impediment to its passage. But in this instance, and we do it fairly routinely, but when we've not finalized our actions on the budget, that we then put the clause on the bill. And then we, in this instance, I can assure the gentleman that it is our intent to appropriately fund the bill, and then this clause would have been satisfied.
Senator has the floor.
Would you object to taking this by for the day, just so I can do it?
Mr. President, I'm not the patron of the bill, but I would.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. President. If I could yield to Senator McDougall, I think he can answer a couple of questions, please.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougall.
Mr. President, speaking to the question from the gentleman from Westmoreland County. Mr. President, last year I think that there was some concern that bills that had the clause attached, the posture that the House Committee on Appropriations placed them in, and that posture was that if it was in the Senate budget, but not in the House budget, then they were not considering it. We've made it abundantly clear that because of that stance last year, that bills that are not in the Senate budget that come over from the House will be held, and to be determined whether they're held in rules or finance, but they will be held until Senate bills that were in our budget but not in the House budget are acted on. So to the gentleman's question, that was a concern last year, not because of the nature of the clause, but if they were funded in the Senate budget and not in the House budget, the status of how they were taken up. And we've made that position known to our friends in the House to make sure that Senate bills will be considered and passed positively or negatively based on their merits, or if the House wishes to fund them, but we will give the same determination to House bills going forward.
All right. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Based upon that, Mr. President, I'll withdraw my request to let it go by for the day.
Thank the Senator.
Mr. President.
The Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the gentleman from Augusta for coming to me and putting the dreaded clause on my bill. Having served in the lower body and having ascended like the angels to this chamber, I do understand their reticence to accept the clause, but that was mostly on their bills when their bills came over here. I have every faith and confidence that the senator from Augusta will indeed make sure that this is included in our budget, and I'd ask you to accept the clause.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is adopted. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is a second amendment, and I move that we waive the reading of the amendment.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Voice? Okay. Says aye. Okay. We'll say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this small amendment actually puts in a time certain between the time a law enforcement officer who has been duly sworn into his or her duties must be retired prior to going to work for a VRS-covered facility. The language in the bill was a little nebulous, so this actually it puts a time certain, and it also meets the guidelines of the Internal Revenue Service. So I hope we'll accept the amendment.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I ask that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading. Well,
it's in the block.
Never mind.
It's already in the block,
Thank
so you're good. Thank the Senator.
Senate Bill 1488, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1273, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute.
Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1644, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment.
Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. Wow. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1678, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 1726, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my seatmate is very happy, and he wishes this committee substitute to be agreed to, so I'd move such motion.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1016, a bill relating to form of ballot optional party identification of certain candidates, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with amendments.
Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we engross and advance the amendments to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1025, a bill relating to tethering of animals, adequate shelter, and space, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendments.
Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Agree. I move the amendments, please.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted. Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
I move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1110, a bill relating to alcoholic beverage control local referendums, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move the committee substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
With that, Mr. President, I'd ask that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1242, a bill relating to alcoholic beverage control, mixed beverage restaurant license penalties, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would indulge to ask that bill go 5 for the day, please.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1242 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1367, a bill relating to dogs running at large in packs, local ordinances, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman. Does the Senator want to...
Yeah, well, it seems like the pound is making some noise over there. I'd ask that the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading, sir.
I thank the Senator. Question. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1642, a bill relating to cosmetics animal testing prohibition penalty, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with an amendment.
Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Mr. President, I move that the amendment be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 20 through 24, including Senate Bill 1339 through Senate Bill 1542, that the rules of the Senate be suspended, that the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 20 through 24, Senate Bill 1139 through Senate Bill 1542, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
It's very apparent to me that there's always 2.5% that doesn't get the word. I would now ask that all the bills be passed by for the day.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on third reading. Senate Joint Resolution 294, confirming appointments by the governor of certain persons, communicated August the 1st, 2018.
Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the resolution.
Thank the Senator.
Mr. President.
For what purpose, Senator from Bass, Senator Deeds?
I'd like to speak to the resolution.
Senator has the floor.
This resolution confirms a number of the governor's appointments, and I'm certainly not going to suggest that anyone vote against the appointments. These are all good people. that the governor has chosen for his administration. This is my 28th year here, and I can't really think of a time when I opposed the gubernatorial appointment. In general, my view is that governors have a right to choose their administrations, and their success rises or falls on the backs of those people they appoint. Yesterday, we adopted a substitute that essentially fired Jay DeBoer as director of the Department of Professions and Occupational Regulations. Jay has had a distinguished career and has given a lot to this Commonwealth. 19 years in the House of Delegates, head of the Department of Aging, and head of DPOR. He's professional. He's been nonpartisan in these jobs, been equally fair, equally unfair to all people. And it's just a shame that yesterday we learned once again that the only rule that really counts in this body over the traditions of the Senate, frankly, is the rule of 21. That rule will count next year too, Mr. President, and it will count the year after that and the year after that. And there are those of us who may be here who will remember this day.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe, rise?
Mr. President, I'm abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on page 3, lines 155 and 156, but voting on SJR 294 as a whole.
I thank the senator. The Journal will so note. For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
Mr. President, the records show that I'm abstaining pursuant to Senate Rule 36 on page 5, lines 269 and 270, but voting on SJR 294 as a whole.
Thank the senator. The Journal will so note. For what purpose does the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the Journal reflect that I'm not abstaining at all from this?
Journal will so note.
That being said, seriously, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we heard the comments from the senator from Bath, but I want to remind everyone that all of the governor's appointments are subject to the advice and consent of the Senate and the House. There's a reason for that. It's the way it's always been. Now, I know there may be some consternation about somebody being taken off or whatever, but let's understand that's part of our duties here in the Senate. And I'll also remind the gentleman that, yes, I remember when we were in the minority, and unlike our newest member who got committee assignments today, I sat in my office for 3 weeks when I was elected before I got any committee assignments. So let's understand that pendulum can swing both ways. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from James City County, Senator Normant, rise?
Mr. President, I rise in support of the resolution, sir.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the word ecumenical rang through my ears as I listened to the senator from Bath. And I would say I remember under a governor who ran on a moniker of Axe the Tax, where this Republican took a number of his appointees off of his gubernatorial appointment list. And for those of you on the other side of the aisle, I would remind you of the name of Danny LeBlanc.
Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Joint Resolution 294? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Joint Resolution 294 be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Joint Resolution 294 is agreed to. Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended and House Joint Resolution 717 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and House Joint Resolution 717 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The clerk will please read the title.
House Joint Resolution number 717, commending Rodney A. Robinson.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, this is the traditional Teacher of the Year, which will take place tomorrow. And as such, I move that the commending resolution be agreed to.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is agreed to. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquiry the clerk, does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. A point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is the 46th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade landmark decision wasn't the beginning of abortion in America. Rather, it allowed many people to access abortion legally and helped prevent many unnecessary deaths from unsafe, illegal abortions. Today, we look back and thank the brave women and men who made this landmark victory possible so that future generations could live in a world where we could chart our own destinies and access health care without risking our lives. The Supreme Court observed that the ability of women to participate equally in the economic and social life of the nation has been facilitated by their ability to control their reproductive lives. But given the current makeup of the U.S. Supreme Court and threats from the Trump White House, we can no longer look to the court to protect our rights. The reality is, if Roe falls, Virginia could become the last state between D.C. and Florida where abortion is still legal and accessible, with an abortion desert stretching westward as far as Colorado. This would leave Virginia as a refuge for patients seeking care as abortion providers shutter their doors in the state to the south and west of the Commonwealth. Virginia would become the beacon of hope and a safe haven for protecting individual liberty abortion in the South. This means it would be up to this legislature to ensure Virginians' access to reproductive health care is protected. And while we recognize that Roe isn't just a Supreme Court case, it's a promise that every individual is given the power and dignity to make decisions about something as personal as their own life, body, and future. We also acknowledge that this promise has not been fulfilled for all Virginians nor all Americans. For since the 1973 decision, anti-abortion lawmakers have created a minefield of regulations, including the mandatory 24-hour waiting periods and medically unnecessary ultrasound requirements, and funding restrictions that have severely limited a woman's right to reproductive freedom. Virginians have been forced to defend their ability to exercise their constitutional rights repeatedly as anti-abortion legislators continue to undermine their freedom. We must maintain that abortion is legal in this Commonwealth and in the United States and protect a woman's right to choose. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, today, as our colleague just remarked, marks the 46th anniversary of the Supreme Court's landmark decision on Roe v. Wade. And as we celebrate that, it is more important than ever to enact state policies that protect safe, legal abortion. Virginians must have the freedom and dignity to make their own personal, private health care decisions, including the fundamental right to choose to carry a pregnancy to term or to have an abortion. We know that abortion is legal. It has become, since that time, has become one of the safest medical procedures in the United States, with a safety record of over 99%. But while the procedure is safe, the right to access an abortion is under serious threat. With Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court and the Trump-Pence administration continuing to attack access to care, reproductive rights are on the chopping block. Virginia legislators must act to protect a person's right to make their own personal medical decisions. As of today, if Roe were overturned, there's nothing in Virginia state laws that protects that right. I just last week introduced the Reproductive Freedom Act to codify Roe in the decision into Virginia law. It's a popular idea, with 7 out of 10 Americans saying they support Roe v. Wade and that they don't want to see it overturned. All of our communities are healthier and stronger when people who are empowered to plan for their own future and make their own decisions. We know, and the data proves, that when women who live in states with policies that support access to reproductive health care, they have higher earnings and they are more integrated in the workforce compared to women living in states that have more limited reproductive health care access. I believe that Virginia can be the first place, the best place for women to live and thrive in the country. But first, we must ensure that all women have access to the health care that she deserves. And so today, as we commemorate the 46th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I urge my colleagues to work together to improve health care access for all women by codifying Roe in Virginia's law, by repealing the medically unnecessary abortion restrictions, and blocking any attempts to interfere with a woman's personal medical decisions. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose is the senator from Loudoun, Senator Black, rise?
Speak to that issue.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1973 was one of the darkest moments in American history. It was a moment in which the United States Supreme Court exceeded its constitutional bounds. It moved into the legislative realm, and it enacted a new law that permitted the mass slaughter of children across this nation, one that has affected us so deeply that at this point there's not a state in the Union that has a birth rate sufficient to reproduce itself, maintain its population. When I think about this, there are a lot of personal things that I think about. And I remember standing at a funeral canopy in a pouring rain. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people gathered around it, but only a few could fit under the canopy. And my cousin, Camille, was being buried. I looked out from under the canopy, and there was an Indian. He was about my height, stocky, and he stood in the pouring rain, his face like iron, standing there to pay homage to her. Because my cousin Camille, she was a very, very devout Catholic woman. She had breast cancer. She had become pregnant. And when you become pregnant, the estrogen flows at a tremendous rate. And if you have cancer, it feeds the cancer. And she would not accept chemotherapy, which would damage the child. And so we watched and we struggled. Our family struggled to get her to the end.
and she almost made it. She was in enormous pain, and the priest came to the little farmhouse she was at, and she said, "Father," she said, "I'm in such enormous pain, it goes on and on." And he said, "You must drink from the cup of Christ's suffering." And so she did. And I would go with her to the beautiful church where the nuns would come and they would sing Vespers. And at Sunday Mass, she would attend, and she would be so sick that she would lay on the floor. And everyone understood. Everyone accepted it. She was a very heroic person. And she finally went into labor. And in the course of labor, her heart began to fail. And her husband was there with her. And she made a motion as if to drink, and he went to turn and get her some water. He rushed over, and he turned back. And then when he looked at her, she had somehow, through just a superhuman effort at the very moment of her death, managed to sit upright. And she made a motion as if to drink from that final chalice. She fell back, she died, and her daughter, Magdalena, expired with her. We were not able to bring her to life. We were not able to reach the finish line and have her born, despite her mother's enormous heroic sacrifice. When they built the beautiful chapel, it's a sort of European-style chapel, they placed in there 4 bells. 2 of the bells are the bells of Camille Lohmeyer, and 2 of the bells are the bells of Magdalena, her daughter. I was very pleased that they did this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have such a deep admiration, and there's almost an uneasiness when I think about it, because I have served in battles where men went forward and died willingly. One of them won the Medal of Honor in one of these battles, and I think I could have done what he did, but I'm not sure that I'd have had the courage at that last moment, with that last breath of my body, to do what Camille did. And so it makes me feel a little bit inadequate in the face of her courage. Ladies and gentlemen, I doubt that she would be pleased hearing anyone speak in defense of the deliberate killing of innocent children. I suspect she had no regrets whatsoever for having sacrificed her life with the hope, the mere hope, the mere possibility that she could bring Magdalena's life into being. Of course, it was a life in being, but to give her a full life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I suggest that we ponder the dark cloud that was cast on this nation by Roe versus Wade. I see this as a day of shame and certainly not a day of pride. Thank you.
What purpose does the senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had not planned to speak this morning or this afternoon, but after hearing some of the comments, as a woman, I cannot remain silent. First of all, I would just like to say, how can any human being in good conscience kill a baby and call it good? Some call it abortion, but let's call it what it is. It's legal infanticide. And for that reason today, I cannot celebrate, but instead I must mourn. Not all women support abortion. It's infanticide, and instead of using the word abortion, I would just ask that we call it what it is going forward, and that's infanticide. Thank you, Mr. President.
What purpose does a junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the gentleman from Loudoun sharing his family story. And I want to share a couple others very briefly. When I became pregnant while serving in the other body, the obstetrician that did my first ultrasound said, he told me some stories of some of his patients. And he said, I always find it interesting that when I tell these stories, people assume I'm not talking about an abortion, but I am. He talked about a patient who had a hole in her heart, who was on birth control because she knew if she got pregnant, she would die. But she got pregnant and had to make a very difficult decision, just as the gentleman from Loudoun's cousin did, but she made a different one. He told me the story of a patient who was pregnant with octuplets, and the option, the chances that all 8 would survive and come to term were very slim. But if the mother reduced the pregnancy to 2, the chances of the 2 surviving were significant. So she and her husband had to make a very difficult decision. He told me the story of a woman who she and her husband had tried and tried and tried to get pregnant, finally did. And at the 20-week ultrasound, and when you get to 20 weeks, you're pretty pregnant. And you've made plans and dreams and thought about what is going to happen in the next 20 weeks. And you're a little bit afraid when the doctor comes in and says, there's a problem. And this patient found out there was a diagnosis of severe, I think it was spina bifida, which I won't go into the details about. But if that pregnancy went to term, and given the significant deformities of the fetus if it survived birth, it wouldn't survive very long. Or another patient who was given a diagnosis that if that pregnancy went to term, the minute the cord was cut, the baby would suffocate. These are very, very, very difficult decisions that people we see every day have to make. People you talk to in the halls on both sides of the aisle who have shared that this too is their story. And the point of Roe versus Wade and the cases that came afterwards were that that decision should be made just like any other medical decision between the patient, her family, her physician, her support system, and not government. That was the point. Because whether Roe versus Wade happened or not, whether abortion is legal or not, they're going to occur. But shouldn't they be safe if they're going to occur? Should that be the only medical procedure that's in our criminal code? I think these decisions, as difficult as they are, as tragic as they can be, belong in the hands of the patient and her doctor and not government. Thank you.
For what purpose does the senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe, rise?
Mr. President, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
I'm one of the ones around here who's old enough to remember what it was like before Roe v. Wade. The day that the Roe v. Wade decision came down, I was living in Mexico City. I heard it on my car radio with my two children in the car. And I pulled over to the side of the road and started crying. My then 4-year-old said, "Mommy's crying? Mommy doesn't cry." I said, "Yes, Mommy cries. Mommy cries." This was such an important decision. And it was important to me because of things that happened to 3 of my close friends. One was in high school. She got pregnant. She came to those of us that she thought might be able to help her. None of us had any idea what to do or how to help her. We were 17 years old. She committed suicide. In college, someone I knew got pregnant, and she had a backstreet abortion because that's really all that there was in those days. She had such a terrible infection that she never was able to have children. A third friend, a male friend, got a girl pregnant, and he didn't love her. He barely knew her, but he married her. It was not a happy marriage. These were terrible choices people had to make. Terrible things happened. So I cried, and now, every year, I am so grateful that we have got Roe v. Wade, and I hope we never go back. It's not a good place to go. Thank you.
For what purpose does Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan, rise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
I'd just like to say this is very personal to me. I take care of women every day and sit in the rooms with them as they make difficult decisions. But there are a couple of things that I would like to point out today. This is not a decision between 2 people. This is a decision between 3. That baby is physiologically and genetically separate, powerless, voiceless, and deserving of protection, number 1. Number 2, I would say as a society, we've failed dismally if the only 2 options we give women are horrible options and abortion. And I think we need to do better.
Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, January 22nd, the Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Committee on Local Government will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Finance Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3:30 p.m., Subcommittee Room Number 1 on the 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Norman, Newman, Howes, Saslaw, Hanger, Ruff, Donovan, and Stewart. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will meet at 4 p.m., Subcommittee Room Number 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Cosgrove, Black, Barker, Lewis, and Suderline. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 23rd, the Finance Subcommittee on Public Safety will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the Senate Leadership Conference Room, 6th floor, Pocahontas. Senators McDougal, Howell, Norman, Lucas, Carrico, and Obenshain. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m., Tidewater Room, 4th floor, SunTrust. The Committee on Finance will meet at 9 a.m., Committee Room B, Pocahontas. The General Laws and Technology Subcommittee Number 1 will meet at 9 a.m., Subcommittee Room Number 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Locke, Black, DeStuff, Donovan, Sturtevant, Saraville, McPike, and Vogel. The Republican caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2 in the Capitol, and the Democratic caucus will meet in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. And on Thursday, this will be on your calendar tomorrow, but there will be a subcommittee on coal ash Thursday, 45 minutes after adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.